Mhm. So now after, so while you're working at MTV, were you
Mm-hmm.
also dabbling in bands too, or were you just exclusively doing your MTV stuff?
No, no, I was managing bands.
Oh, okay.
I actually had to get it cleared with the company to
Mhm.
do it. So I found this band in Austin, Texas during South by Southwest. A friend of mine from Memphis was playing, so I went to
Mhm.
his showcase, and we went a little early. Actually, we went a lot early, and this band opened for them. And again, it was that Helvis thing when I first saw Helvis, the first band I
Yeah.
managed.
Mhm.
One song in, I looked at my friend and I said, "Holy fuck, I got to work with these guys."
That's cool.
Oh my god. They were like Captain Beefheart meets like the Sex Pistols. It was ridiculous. It's probably the wrong description, but
No, no,
anyway.
no.
And literally, I go back to MTV. I leave Austin. Don't even talk to them. I go back to MTV. I email them, and I said, "Oh, I saw you down at Austin. I would love to talk to you guys. I've been a manager in the past. Blah blah blah." And they're like, "Yeah, that sounds great." I literally flew back to Austin a week later to go meet the band,
Oh, okay.
and I started managing them.
Now, whatever. How long did that last?
About 3 or 4 years, I think.
Oh, okay.
I got them two record deals and a music
Wow.
publishing deal. I got him a deal with Downtown Music, which was Gnarls Barkley's label,
Yes.
and got him a deal with them. And then I got him a deal with this little UK label called Full Time Hobby.
Now,
So
oh, go ahead.
my whole thinking, I know this is going to get into the weeds. My whole thinking with this type of music at the time, this was 2007, 8, was let's go to Europe first and blow up there first because they
Mhm.
will appreciate this music. And
Yeah.
then hopefully there'll be a blowback to the US and we'll get a deal here. So I started off with the little deal, with the little record deal over there. And they did very well. They sold a ton of records, believe it or not, physical records,
Mhm.
which was great. And then by the time it was time to like get into the US market, because I carved out that market in the deal, I ended up going after Downtown Records, and they loved it, and we signed a deal with them, and they've done very well.
You would be way better to talk about it than me, but with the first film I did, Reluctant Justice, I was able to have this guy from Dramarama. His name is John Easdale. I don't know if you remember
Mm-hmm.
that name.
Of course,
Uh,
he lives in Whittier or La
yeah,
Habra.
it's crazy. But so he did some music for that movie, and
Mm-hmm.
but getting to know him and then talking about like that anything song was like huge. He was on David Letterman, but he kind of gave me a little glimpse into to the world. But mainly, what blew me away is the way these contracts, at least early. I mean, what he must have done that one in the early '80s. Contracts like there was maximums. I mean, he thought they're a garage band and they had that song,
Right.
and when they signed it, and he thought we're going to be millionaires.
Yeah.
And what a shock he was. What a shock he had. I mean, he's made a good life for himself, but
Sure.
it's like he's had some hits, but he said he never had a hit as big as he said it's your second contract. You're usually like, I think he was pointing to No Doubt. Remember the band No
Mm-hmm.
Doubt? They had
Mm-hmm.
a first album that didn't do really well, and then
Mm-hmm.
their second album blew up, and I guess that's what you want to do, because whether they can renegotiate stuff or whatever it is. But he said they didn't make nearly what they thought or what everyone thinks that you're going to make when you do that album. And he said
They nickel and dime you on those contracts.
and he felt it was set up. It was like set up to keep you continually indebted to them.
Yes. Correct.
And same thing with tours. I ended up meeting a guy from the band Rat. And he was talking about their first tour. Yeah, you're perfect to speak to this. But he said their first tour, he said there again, they've had some hits. It was a smaller venues, but I probably like the Grove size. They're not doing 18,000, maybe 5 to 10.
The Grove in Anaheim.
Yeah, got
Right?
Grove in Anaheim. However big that is. But he said it was a good tour, but they took off thinking they were Van Halen. He said, and they give you a rider. And I didn't know what that was, but I guess it's what do you want at each of your backstages? And they're like, we want freaking Lowenbrow beer, and we want whatever, the most
Clean
expensive
pair of socks, Jack Daniels, all of it.
He said they got back, and they're like, okay, man, where are my millions? And they owed like an incredible amount of money. And he said, and again, maybe you can speak on this. He said, if you can tour, which they got better, if you know how to tour, you can make money on a tour. He said, you just can't do what they did. You know what I mean? You can't live that lifestyle that he said probably Van Halen did, and they did it for the videos. But it's like, not everyone's taking jets. And not everyone's drinking, whatever you want. But he said they learned, they were better, but at the same time, he lives in a modest house. He's not living in Beverly Hills. But it's like, the perception is clearly different than the reality, I guess.
Oh, yeah, totally. Yeah.
Now, what you've done, do you think there are ways to make money on tours?
Yeah, merch.
Okay, so that's the big thing. But it's, I mean,
look, it depends on the size of band you are, and how much you're making per night, and how many people you're taking out on crew.
Okay.
And if you have a tour bus, tour buses they're great, but for a young band, they're a money pit. Mm-hmm. You have to pay for the bus. You have to pay for the bus. You have to pay for the driver. You have to pay for the gas. You have to pay for the driver's day room at a hotel. While you're doing, you know what I mean? There's a lot of expense. So,
like, when does it transition from you're always trying to promote the band, but where you're making more money? Like, I've noticed, like, bring them up again, Social Distortion. They do like every year they do these House of Blues tours. Now, is that about the size of a venue that you can start making money? I mean, they sell out their stuff all the time, but I mean, it seems like their venues are like that size. They play in a place in Bakersfield, which is a little bigger, like maybe the Grove style size, but they're never like going to the the Forum and places like that. But I mean, are you still, if you have like a House of Blues tour, you're going to make some money?
Yeah, and it depends on who you're dealing with as the promoter.
Okay.
If you're doing a deal with like Live Nation, I'm sure you've heard of Live Nation. Yeah. Sometimes they'll give you money up front to do the tour. And if they own all the House of Blues, which I believe they do, you're playing in their house. So they're they'll give you money up front to do that. But again, all the expenses, there's so many expenses at the end of the day.
Yeah.
One band that I was with, I'm not going to name them, but they said to me during the tour years and years ago is, we're the last to get paid.
Oh, okay.
We don't get a check until the tour's over. You know what I mean? So we need to sell merch. We need to sell signed vinyl records and CDs at the time.
All right.
You know what I mean? And sometimes the label, they won't touch that stuff, or they buy the vinyl and the CDs from the label at a cut rate price, $5 a pop. And then the bands will jack up the price at the merch table.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because, I mean, kind of similarly, with like, I'm going through distribution and with Hostage, and it's like certain territories will give you an advance. But, because the best part about, I guess, the time now is you can find this stuff out. You can find out where your movie's playing. You can find out, way more information.
The analytics are way better.
Oh, it's when I did Reluctant Justice, which was like 95, you signed with the distributor, and then you just hoped. You cross your fingers, you pray that someone's going to pay you. What I found out, well, you had to get lawyers involved, but all we were getting was that initial advance. And people laugh, oh yeah, once you get an advance from a territory, you're never going to get any more. You know what I mean?
Nope.
In this situation with Reluctant Justice, you didn't know unless you're physically present. I happen to have an actor was in Mexico at a resort, and the movie was being played on their pay-per-view. So he called me. He's like, "Hey, bro, I just got our movie. This is awesome. It's on pay-per-view." I was like, "What?" So I immediately I try to play it cool with the distributor. Like, "Hey, like, is there any interest in Mexico?" And he's like, "No." And then I'm like, "Well, I told him the story about the actor." And he's like, "Oh, well, we'll look into it." Of course, at that point, no more phone calls were returned.
Of course.
And, I mean, then you have to get a lawyer. But it seemed like we had to pay, for every dollar. In order to make $2, we had to spend $1. It's like every step of the way, we had to pry it out of their fingers. But now, with, like you're saying, there's dashboards, there's analytics, yet you can see where it's at. But I've kind of been told that with a lot of foreign countries, that initial advance is pretty much what you're going to get. So I don't know if that's changed in music, but, and again, according to John Easdale and different places, it's like, it's pulling teeth sometimes, getting money.
Because then you have to spend money to hire a forensic accountant to go in and say, "I'm going to audit you." And then they push you off for a couple years.
Yeah.
It's not immediate, right?
You have to get, like in my situation, I had a friend who was a lawyer, and that guy sent a letter to this distribution company, and they're like, "Huh?" It was, so I had to go. We got, like, back in the day, we had to go to a noted law firm. It was Leonard Dicker and Schreiber at the time, they were a big one. But just their letter, they just sent a letter like, "Hey, this is what we're looking for." That distribution company just went, just blap. They gave all the stuff, and his point was, and we got a lot of money there. His point was, you don't give up that much unless there's more. He said, but the truth is, it's going to cost. I mean, dude, and I'm not telling you anything or anybody, but your lawyer, they time your phone calls, dude.
Oh,
like the amount that we were billed was insane. This dude he'll talk to you like, for hours because he's charged.
Start the clock. Point.
Dude, when I got that our executive producer, he's the one paying for it. But he was like, "What the hell? Like, you talked to this guy for 20 minutes." After that, dude, I was like trying to I was going fast. But his deal is you're paying him $500 or whatever an hour, and it's like he's like, "What is it worth?" You don't want to just be throwing your money into a hole. But so we only went so far, but hopefully now, it's a little more honest. But I just thought, man, what an interesting business that music, because people are still flocking to it. People still want to get to it. But man, do you think it's, like I said earlier, do you think it's harder to make a living, a successful living as a musical artist than it is as an actor?
It's probably the same, I'd say. There's just a lot of competition.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of artists that put their art into the world, but don't know how to monetize it.
Yes, huge.
Right? So they'll sit around and they'll wait for their PRO check. PRO is ASCAP or BMI or CSAC or the back end royalties. Or they'll wait for their Spotify royalty or their Amazon Music royalty or their Apple Music or Tidal royalty, which now is it's paltry.
Yeah.
It's
now,
not a lot.
like when you see, oh, hey, I got 500 million views or whatever, streams or whatever on Spotify, like what are they making? Because I'll just tell you a quick side note. In the movies, like if you're on different websites and you have 1 million views, like YouTube, whatever, it's not what you're thinking. You're gonna be making like $50,000.
It's a fraction of a penny.
Yes.
So I don't know what the current rate is, to be honest with you. I will say that I managed a songwriter back in 2014, 2015, 2016 who co-wrote a pretty big Lana Del Rey song. And it was just him and her. So they were 50-50 co-write, 50-50 publishing. So I went out and got him a publishing deal based on the song was coming out. And that song has probably streamed around the world about over 1 billion times collectively, for sure, between all the streaming services and whatnot, whatever. And he's probably, he and I don't work together anymore, but he's probably recouped his deal a couple times
Okay.
because, you know, a billion streams, it's like millions of dollars.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Millions. Yep. So, you know, good on him. He's a co-writer forever on a couple of her songs, which is great. But to put it into perspective on royalty rates, I just don't know, because I don't know what the current royalty breakdown is.
Now, is that different? Oh, I guess it would be, because I mean, the first movie I optioned was 3,000 Miles. As screenplay ended up, they never made the movie. I ended up turning it into a book. But my first contract I got from this company that was paying for me in the option, they made a mistake, I guess, as early computer times, you know, where you can just populate the, you know, name, address, the amount of the money. Well, they had it a different name and a whole lot more money than I was getting paid. That's what they sent me, you know, and to sign. And so that I sent it back, and I was like, hey, this is evidently, it's not me, you know, this is to somebody else.
Sure.
But it was like, it showed me, but it kind of gave me a better ground to stand on as far as the different things in his option agreement that he had that I didn't. But it also showed me that percentages are different. You know, everything was different. Totally. And what I thought was standard, which the lady told me, wasn't, because of that one. So it's kind of an eye-opening. So I assume different bands make different amounts, you know, of course, with maybe how much their fraction of the penny is, you know, with these.
Oh, 100%. Those people, like the Taylor Swifts, the Jay-Z's, the Kanye Wests of the world, they do their direct streaming deals with the streaming companies.
Well, and
so they get a higher royalty rate, because those streaming companies need them.
Now, isn't also, especially now, isn't also a big thing is the publishing. Like, you'll have a band. Again, the guy from Rat was telling me the difference was there's the band, but then Stephen Piercy or whatever, the singer, did like, he had the publishing. He wrote the songs, you know, and I think like Guns N' Roses, it's Slash and Axl or whatever. But so they make a little more money. I guess that's kind of where the money's at.
They make the lion's share of the money.
Yeah, so that's kind of, I didn't realize how much.
So if those songs are on radio, those guys get paid. The rest of the band doesn't get paid.
Oh, really?
No.
Just, again, means nothing. I remember watching an interview with Nikki Sixx of Motley Crue, and he said he was during, maybe you heard it, he was in one of his, like, you know, heroin times, stupors, but he said that he got offered this hot band coming up, and he knew him, named Guns N' Roses. They wanted him to produce Appetite for Destruction. And he's like, that was his biggest, you know, flub or whatever, mess up in his life, was he was too strung out. He's like, no. But he's all, that's a band that you could have just pressed record. Like, they were locked in for that recording. So you could have just pressed record. And he said a producer makes like $1 a CD.
It depends. They get points for a record.
But he, maybe in his layman's terms, he said it's about $1. So he said, think about how many CDs, that records that album has sold. He's all, that's how much I blew. But I was like, so it's like, how in the world, I think you had mentioned it earlier, it's like producers are making more money, the writers making more money, the band is on the bottom of the list.
They're the last to get paid, period. The catering company gets paid first.
Oh, that is...
No, it's the truth.
Yeah.
And look, my mission when I was at MTV, going back to MTV days, when I was helping these bands out or these songwriters or these artists get their music into the shows, my focus was the artists and the songs and getting really good music and talented artists into the shows to help them out, make some mailbox money on the other side through television performance of, you know, their songs on the shows, which now has become streaming, which that's a paltry royalty now that everything's streaming. But because they were the last to get paid, this was kind of an extra little avenue for them to make some extra money.
Yeah, that's cool.
And I had some guy from Long Beach, from this punk band that I loved, and I licensed his song or his music, and it ended up in Jersey Shore.
Oh, wow.
And he goes, dude, I've been signed to like big labels my entire career. That's the most money I've ever made.
Really?
from those
From
placements on
TV.
TV.
Oh, that's cool.
So that just goes to show that these deals that artists have been signing over the last 10 decades are garbage.
Oh,
They're terrible. Why are the creatives always stomped? Why are we always the last
Yeah.
to get? They want us there first for the ideas, right? But then when it's time to cut the check,
And
they're gone.
that's the hardest part about the film business, is that it's such a collaborative art.
Yes.
You can't do it by yourself. You know, and you need all these different people, and it's like it's always been, there's creatives, and then there's the people with the money, and they are the non-creatives, but they like to be creative adjacent. You know what I mean? There's so many of those people, those hangers on.
They like to go run to LinkedIn and post how incredible they are.
Yes,
because
1000%.
They're a part of this project. It's like, really, like what did you bring to the table besides the dollar bill?
Yeah, I mean,
and telling me I need to change this cut or this edit doesn't look good with the music dead on it. You know what I mean? Like, whatever.